It is Tuesday, November 11th. President Trump confirming today he will not give even an inch on exactly what he's been promising. No taxpayer funds will go toward health care for illegal aliens. The tariff dividend checks, he says, are happening. And soon we'll be eliminating Obamacare completely. Instead, sending the trillions of dollars directly to you to buy your own health care with on the private marketplace. Also, Chuck Schumer is toast. Open rebellion in the Dem Party as their leadership now calling for, promising Supreme Court reform, promising to blow up the U.S. Supreme Court, rid the court, they say, of corruption when they're back in power. All code words for packing the court to make sure the justices vote correctly. That coming from Dem leadership, not some low-level nobody in Congress. Since the November 4th election, folks, they're not messing around anymore. We'll show you.
I just want to be precise. You say the Supreme Court has been corrupt? Is that what you're saying?
Democrats completely folding, caving yesterday. The Senate striking a deal to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The agreement reached by a group of centrist Democrats bypassing Chuck Schumer completely, brought to the Senate floor and voted on 60-40. 60 senators voting yay, 40 voting nay. The funding bill now must pass the House, which it's expected to. Trump already saying that he supports the deal. He will sign it to reopen the government. And let's be clear about one thing. This deal is the same exact CR, the same spending levels that Republicans brought to the floor before the government shutdown, meaning Democrats just voted yes on the original spending bill. They obtained nothing at all. That's new. They closed the government, caused all this chaos for 40 days for nothing. Chuck Schumer claiming he's appalled his caucus broke ranks and voted with Republicans. Watch.
For months and months, Democrats have been fighting to get the Senate to address the health care crisis. This bill does nothing to ensure that that crisis is addressed. I am voting no, and I will keep fighting.
Now, is that how Chuck Schumer really feels? Well, we know the reason Schumer did this in the first place was because of all the pressure he was under to force a shutdown. He was being threatened with a primary challenge, an AOC primary challenge, if he didn't keep the government closed. Well, 41 days later, he's now in a worse position. There is open rebellion in that party. Look, this is something we never see in the Dem Party. His party openly calling for his ouster. Watch.
What about Democrats nationwide feeling about Chuck Schumer? I think the word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer, look at this. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. I looked at all of the polls going all the way back since 1985. The one who has the lowest rating among Democrats is in fact Chuck Schumer. Look at this. He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater. He's at -4 points. That makes him the least popular guy for a Dem Senate leader going all the way back since the mid-1980s at least.
Do you have a sense of why?
Why? It's because Democrats, they want a fighter. That's why. Take a look here. Dems in Congress do too little to oppose Trump. During the first term, it was just 46% in 2017. That's the percentage of Democrats who said that the Dems in Congress are doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at where we are now. 69%. That is an increase of, get this, 23 points. The super duper majority of Democrats believe that the Democrats in Congress are not doing enough to oppose Donald Trump. And that, of course, is a big, huge criticism of Chuck Schumer. And that is why he is underwater.
I knew you were going to do the dip. All right.
I always do the dip. I need my exercise in the morning.
There has been talks of a challenge to Schumer. What are you saying on that front? Who looks like they're in place to do it?
Okay, so you see this opening slide here, and you see, of course, that Chuck Schumer is underwater with Democrats nationally. But, of course, the ultimate way to get Chuck Schumer out of office is to beat him in New York State. So how do New York State Democrats feel about Chuck Schumer? And take a look here. The net favorable among New York Democrats. Chuck Schumer is above water with the Democrats in his home state, but just by 16 points. Look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running way ahead. If she decides to challenge Chuck Schumer and come 2028, she's got a real leg up on the competition. I dare say at this point she would be the favorite to beat him, which would be something that would just blow my mind, even just a few years ago, given that Chuck Schumer, of course, is a New York born and bred type of guy.
Yeah, those are incredible.
Look at that, 30 points ahead. My goodness gracious.
This is an extremely rare moment, folks. Realize we never see this kind of open rebellion from Democrats. You see it in the GOP all the time, but never, ever in the Dem Party. There is a change happening, a radical shift to the left. The base wants less compromise. They want a Dem Party that fights. They want their own version of Donald Trump. And we're going to see them get even more radical in their statements, their promises, their policies to the run-up to the midterms. And it's already started. Hakeem Jeffries today promising Supreme Court reform, openly, publicly promising to blow up the U.S. Supreme Court, rid it of corruption, he says. Make sure they vote correctly. That's what he's promising. Watch.
Period of time, cleaning up the corruption that exists in Washington, D.C., in the Congress, at the Supreme Court, and of course with the Trump administration, the most corrupt administration in American history. So we can actually deliver a country of the people, by the people, and for the people.
I just want to be precise. You say the Supreme Court has been corrupt. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the outrageous behavior by individual justices like Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito, and the failure to have an ethical code of conduct is corrupt. These are the only people in the country who can operate above the law. And so what I'm suggesting is that as we focus on delivering a country that actually works for working class Americans, we've got to make sure that every single branch of government is working in a manner consistent with lifting up the quality of life of everyday Americans.
That is frightening. Supreme Court reform, just to be clear, when you hear that phrase, that campaign promise, that's coded language for packing the court, doing away with the 170-year makeup of the court, nuking the 9-justice threshold, stripping them of their lifetime appointments, setting term limits on justices, all in the attempt to make it possible to make Puerto Rico and D.C. states add 4 more permanent Democrat senators, making way for a permanent Dem supermajority. Meanwhile, the president confirming tariff dividend checks are happening, announcing this on Truth Social over the weekend and then confirming it yesterday. Watch.
We're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. So we're doing a lot of good work. And the numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country. And nobody thinks it's going to be reversed. I think we had a very good court case. As you know, it's before the Supreme Court right now. But if that were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very easily. But this is trillions of dollars we're talking about in terms of the tariff income and all the investment income that's come into our country.
Trump realizing some staples of life are still far too expensive. Insurance, interest rates, even some grocery prices still too high. People know it. They feel it. The Treasury thus far collecting around $220 billion in tariff revenues over the last 6 months, all made possible because of you, the American consumer. Tariffs are basically an admission fee. Every other country now has to pay an admission charge to sell into the U.S. They do that, though, because they need to. U.S. consumers buy more than anyone on earth, and because of that, these other countries are willing to pay the fee to keep selling in America. This is Trump's way, these dividend checks, this tariff dividend check of saying, thank you, here is your cut, your $2,000 to every American, non-wealthy American, for making this possible. Democrats hate it. They hate this idea. Why? Because it's a giveaway. The Dem Party is usually the party of giveaways, free stuff. Trump's now doing it back to them, playing their game, and they hate it.
Well, Van, I wonder what you make of that. And also the president now saying that he's going to send these $2,000 checks to Americans from tariffs that they've collected. He said a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Erica York, who is the vice president of the federal tax policy, the Tax Foundation, said if the president sent $2,000 checks to the 150 million people who make less than $100,000, it would cost $300 billion, even though the tariffs are only projected to raise about $217 annually.
Look, he's got to do something. I'm not going to turn down the check if it gets to me, and no American will. But why is he talking about this stuff? It's because he looks terrible right now.
Now, injecting $2,000 checks to every non-wealthy American is a form of stimulus, right? Very similar to what happened during COVID, pumping free money, cash directly into the hands of Americans, spikes discretionary spending. The only difference is we didn't have the money during COVID. So inflation spiked. This time we have the cash. It's coming. It's being paid for by these tariffs. So the same type of impact, discretionary spending will spike, but inflation shouldn't be affected at all. But it makes people feel good. People have money in their pockets. Look, politics, it's all about emotion, voter emotion. Dems, they pull these emotional strings every day. They do it with health care, child care, free student loans, free college, free grocery stores, all of it. Trump has a much harder job competing with this. He has to play their game now for the next year, but do it in a capitalistic way, a free market way. Democrats, they're going to be campaigning on health care. We know that. More Obamacare subsidies. They just shut the government down, they claimed, for Obamacare. Well, we're hearing there are very real conversations happening in the White House right now to eliminate it completely and before the midterms and replace it with direct cash payments to every non-wealthy American or Obamacare recipient. Take the money the government currently pays the insurance companies for the ACA and instead give it to you in a special bank account or something like that. Deposit it into each American's unique insurance account, their own unique insurance bank account, which you can then only spend that money on buying your own private health care policy within the private marketplace. Watch.
On Obamacare, you raised several times during this shutdown debate that it's clear that this was never going to work without these massive subsidies. Now they wanted to continue the COVID subsidies. So given the fact that Obamacare really can't survive as they thought without these subsidies, what next?
Well, I watched Obama from when this thing came about. As you know, I opposed it very strongly. Unfortunately, we had a couple of negative votes, which should never have happened. But I said it's going to be a disaster, and I was exactly right. The premiums have gone up like rocket ships, and I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking about for years they've been going up. And he said premiums will go down. Everything will be wonderful. It's horrible health insurance at a very high price. And what I want, and probably what you're alluding to, is the fact that I want, instead of going to the insurance companies, I want the money to go into an account for people where the people buy their own health insurance. It's so good. The insurance will be better. It'll cost less. Everybody's going to be happy. They're going to feel like entrepreneurs. They're actually able to go out and negotiate their own health insurance. And they can use it only for that reason. That's the beauty, only for that purpose. And if we did that, that would be so exciting.
That's a pretty interesting idea. Let me know what you think about it. One point of contention, from what we understand, is forcing you to only spend that money on healthcare. Maybe they can do reimbursements or something at the end of the year if you have money left over in the account because you were able to find a cheaper policy or something like that. These are the conversations, though, happening now, apparently, behind the scenes. Let me know what you think. And another story, Trump taking a beating this week on social media from his base, from his MAGA base, after that 50-year mortgage idea. People not happy about this, thinking it's a gift to the big banks.
Housing costs are still out of reach, and another thing that your administration is trying to tackle. Many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years. And
Well,
what it
30
means
to
is you
50,
pay
yeah.
you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates, and I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months.
Which it is a gift to the banks, but at the same time, Trump's just one guy. He's one person. He can't fix everything in 9 months. The housing market's been shot for years, and as bad as long-term mortgages are, they can help young people afford to break into home ownership. In another story, a bad story, Trump doubling down on allowing 600,000 Chinese students to attend U.S. universities, saying this is a MAGA position. Yeah, I don't know about that, Mr. President. There's a ton of Americans who want to attend these universities who are being beat out by these foreign students, especially Chinese students coming from mainland China who have more money, better grades, and always seem to get accepted over young Americans, especially young white Americans, due to these quotas that universities have on diversity picks.
Folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
You would have the
of the
historically,
United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities would
So
go
we're
down the
dependent on
tubes.
China to keep our university
not China,
system
but
going?
I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. The students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive, but at the same time, I know you and I disagree. We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. People are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast, and it'll be violent. But you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
And look, Trump's being eaten alive over this on social media, and for good reason. This doesn't help the U.S. education system. This money goes into the coffers of these university endowments. It sits there. They invest it. It does nothing to make education more affordable for Americans.